So I'm on the Gold Coast and I'm driving and I'm testing out this new app. I can't remember what it's called, but it's one of these apps that allows you to split the camera into two. So it's using it's an app that allows you to film on both cameras. The camera on the front, the camera on the back of the phone. And what I really like about this is that I can drive around and then you can actually see where I'm driving. And where I'm driving right now is I'm driving on the Gold Coast. I'm on the bridge that goes over, I think it's called the Narang River. And so what you're looking at here on the left is, what's happening on the left is Southport. And what's on the right, you can't see, is the river, and on the other side of that is the main beach. Now I've got a friend who's down. That's where my friend is visiting this fairground we've set up. There's no fucking way I'm going to get a park, right? This is the middle of winter, and it says it's 26 Celsius on the thermometer of the Prius here. That thermometer, I believe, is actually located in the front bumper. Anyway, it's 2 days before the end of winter. It's still winter. It's still winter in Queensland, and it's 26 Celsius. And there's this expression that's attributed to Charles Darwin. I don't think he actually said it. I think it's inferred from his work. And I don't remember what the original inferred words were, but let me just paraphrase for you. That in the context of survival of the fittest are not those that are athletic, it's those that are most adaptable to change. And the world is changing now, and particularly this year, what is it now? We're in 2024, so 2020, the last 18 months. The last 18 months, the whole, the weather systems of the world have just gone batshit crazy. I mean, look at this. It's 26 Celsius. I was looking at a graph earlier on Twitter, some meteorology site, and temperature records have been smashed across the whole of Australia. And it's not just Australia. Around, like, China, Iran, it was 42 Celsius overnight low temperature in Iran a few days ago. Records have been broken across the whole of Europe. And Gavin Schmidt, who's one of the world-leading climate scientists, had a post that I put into the magazine the other day, Sapiens monthly magazine, which is called Kwits, right? And in there, he says that since the 80s or something, he has been maintaining this data set of world temperatures, and that 2023 was the first year that their climate models had been able to actually project what was coming. So I'm not trying to infer too much into that, but that and a bunch of other sort of evidence is kind of suggesting that climate change is just now in this sort of uncharted territory. And it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. I was just listening to a interview the other day with Nate Higgins and a guy called Corey, something I can't remember, who's a conservation biologist. And he was talking about a model that they created that looked at the stability of ecosystems. And he said the best way to crash an ecosystem is to overheat it. There's all sorts of nasty things you can do to ecosystems, but if you overheat them, that's the best way to kill them off. That's what's happening. And he's saying that as we press into 3 Celsius towards the end of the century, they're projecting that we're going to lose half of the species in the world. Okay, so half of the species in the world. And on top of that, all of the climate mayhem. On top of that, all of the extreme weather mayhem. On top of that, all of the infrastructure damage. On top of that, all of the civil conflict, the zoonotic diseases, the war, and the suffering. It's just like the plain old human suffering, you know? It's going through the roof. I'm trying to turn right here, but that's going to take me into a caravan park. I don't actually want to go into a caravan park. Anyway, I'm committed to it now, so it's like I'm going into a caravan park. Okay, and so what I want to say by this is, you know, and I've been watching some business with Trump. You know, I am cautiously optimistic that Trump won't win the next election. There'll be all sorts of bloody strife as a result of him bitching and moaning, and all of his Trumpy red hat MAGA morons will, like, you know, cause all sorts of grief. But I'm pretty sure we're going to go back into. I'm actually relatively confident that we might actually have 8 years of Kamala Harris. Okay, and I'm reasonably confident that there's enough legal strife up against Trump that I think he's taken out of the equation. I think, cautiously hopeful. But you know what? And you know, Trump doesn't actually surprise me. The fact that there are evil, messed up people like him doesn't surprise me at all. And the fact that some of those are extremely wealthy and that they can actually go and, you know, mess up systems like American democracy. I'm not surprised by the existence of Trump at all. But I tell you what stuns me to this day is that, say, a third of the American adults think he's the best choice, and that a significant proportion of them think he's actually pretty damn good overall. You know, a friend of a friend has this characterization of humanity that he breaks them into 2 groups. The Sapiens, I think the proper word is Sapiens, but anyway, Sapiens, and the fuckwits, right? We've got to live with the fuckwits. I got another friend in the UK who's actually expressed the same thing. She says, you know, there are so many fucking retarded people in society who are propping up all of the bad ideas that we've got to live with these fucking people, right? You've got to factor into the equation living with the fuckwits. The fuckwits are a part of the system, right? The Sapiens are a part of the system. The intelligent, empathic people who understand, the people who are adaptable to change, right? Now, the people that aren't adaptable to change, unlike in the sort of Darwinian evolutionary model where they just die off, the people that are not adaptive to change, who are retarding change, are actually one of the factors that is going to kill off even those people that are adaptive to change. Because you can be adaptive to change, but if change happens so fast, it can simply overwhelm your adaptive capacity. All right, and so I think that, okay, so that's one point I wanted to make. The other point I wanted to make is that even within the realms of the sapient people, there is still a significant proportion of them, and I'm talking about maybe most of them, who still haven't actually got how dire the situation is and how necessary is radical change, right? The whole spectrum of these people that call themselves light workers, this is like New Age spiritual stuff, right? Light workers. The whole New Age spiritual movement is full of people who mostly, right, are completely inert on taking action vis-a-vis climate and ecological collapse. right? And this is one of the factors that actually prompted me to do the work to create what is Vita Sapien, is the recognition that this field, or if you like, the institution of spirituality, the way it is practiced in the West, is basically either, is broadly speaking, asleep at the wheel with respect to climate and ecological crisis, right? Broadly speaking. And so what I've tried to do with Vita Sapien is to get my head around spirituality, to sort of get some sense about what the thing is, and how it influences people, and to create a spiritual platform that resonates with this whole issue around climate and ecological collapse, transition, and everything that we need to do to give us the best chance of surviving this century and prospering in the centuries beyond. And so we've got to deal with the fuckwits. We've got to deal with the non-fuckwits who are asleep at the wheel. And we've got to deal with the lobbyists of the fossil fuel industry and their enablers. Okay, there's a whole bunch more institutions. Like, for example, I've done a master's degree through a prestigious university in Australia, and not once in about 3 years of full-time study did anybody even mention climate and ecological crisis. Not once. Not once. Right? And when I actually sat with one of the senior leaders of the actual school and expressed this concern, he said, look, if you want to do a degree in sustainable business, you go to Griffith University. All right? So this institution is pumping out tens of thousands of business graduates every year who are basically just going in to exacerbate the climate and ecological crisis. All right, so, we can just keep naming the challenges that we've got to turn the ship around. But let's just stick with the fuckwits and the non-fuckwits who are asleep at the wheel, and the fossil fuel industry lobby and their enablers. If we just focus on those three areas, then that way we can it's not even in the basket. She's got a little tray that sits on the crossbar with a fluffy little poodle thing. It's funny. Okay, so I think that's really the framing. We just got to just try and focus on those three target areas.